and welcome to Book 5, Chapter 15 of You Should Be Reading. Today, today I'd like to talk to you about The Dirty Streets of Heaven by Tad Williams. Now, Tad Williams is an author that I've read quite a bit about. I've read his Otherworld series, and I've read the Memory, Sorrow, and Thorn series, most of it. And I think there was another, but I can't remember off the top of my head. And then there's this one. Some of you may know that I picked up A Happy Hour in Hell, which I was going to read, and then I found out it was the second book in the series. This one is the first, The Dirty Streets of Heaven. So I grabbed it as soon as able, and I decided to read it. And oh my, it is good. It is good. If you like urban fantasy, which is kind of in the vein of the Elemental Assassin series by Jennifer Stepp, the Dresden Files by Jim Butcher, and anything along those lines, where you've got supernatural elements set in a modern day universe, modern day times, anything like that. That's kind of classified as urban fantasy. And if you like that sort of thing, this might be the kind of book that you want to check out, because it's also a noir detective story. So if you like urban fantasy and you like noir detective story, this is right up your alley. This book is all about an angel by the name of, I believe, Delorial, or as he's more commonly known by, Bobby Dollar. And he is an advocate for souls. So whenever somebody dies, he shows up to advocate on their behalf and try and get them into heaven. And of course, there's always a prosecutor that shows up from hell who is there arguing against them about and telling the judge what sort of a horrible person this individual soul will happen to be in life, bringing up all of the sins and the pettiness and whatnot. So it's definitely got some interesting bits in there. But he shows up and he ends up going to a particular soul who dies, only to find out the soul isn't there and nobody knows where it's gone. The soul has basically been stolen, and this is something that's never been happened before in the history of heaven and hell collecting souls. So this big investigation starts going off, and somebody sicks a monster on Bobby Dollar, trying to kill him, and the word has been put out that Bobby Dollar has stolen something that belonged to a Duke of Hell, and now the Duke of Hell wants him dead. And to top it all off, he's falling in love with a demoness called the Countess of Cold Hands, who is a lady that has been condemned to hell and is a demon. Yeah, it's one of those type stories. Um, Definitely very interesting, and the bits, because you only get to see a lot of the bits of heaven in this one. I think you get to see a lot more of hell in the second one. Haven't read it yet, but you get to see a lot of heaven and how things are up there, and the fact that our protagonist doesn't really trust heaven and everything that's going on up there. And he seems to be more in tune with the mortal world a little bit. He seems to like it there and like what he's doing. Things are very interesting and not at all what they seem from time to time. Uh, there's his friends that he has, and there were moments in this that I ended up doubting his friends and their motives, and whether or not any of those friends have actually betrayed him, I'm not going to spoil. But there was some wonderful doubt seated in, and you were never sure who to trust, and I absolutely love that. One thing Ted Williams has always done well is characterization in all of his books. All of his characters feel so very much fleshed out and real and realistic, despite and depending on whatever they happen to be. In this case, an angel. Uh, Still feels absolutely realistic and normal. So I quite enjoyed this one. And there's some very interesting, as I said, it's definitely film noir uh, in that genre, the noir detective story. And you've got a bit of um, you got a bit of that in the fact of uh, some of the thoughts that Bobby Dollar is having, and some of the portrayals of the world around them and the real world, and the fact that demons and angels are kind of at each other's throats a lot of the time. Um, yeah, it is quite interesting. Now, I don't know if this is going to be for everyone. There's a few scenes in here that are definitely a bit graphic, um, both in terms of violence and in sexuality as well, that are in here. So be warned and be forewarned about that if you're going in. But it all fits in the story. It's not something that ever comes across as gratuitous in it. It's very much in keeping with the tone and the narrative that's being told. Um, Especially the sex scenes that are in this, very much in keeping with the narrative, and I liked it. I liked it a lot. It was quite fitting, and I enjoyed it. Happy Hour in Hell is going to be the next one in this series that I'm going to read and check out, and I'm hopefully going to enjoy it just as much as this. Uh, Poor Bobby Dollar. Uh, I'm not sure exactly where the story's going to go. I know that there's 3 books slated in the series. Yeah, Dirty Streets of Heaven, Happy Hour in Hell, and Sleeping Late on Judgment Day is the 3rd one, but I don't know if it's out yet. In this one, it says it's coming soon. Um, so I don't know if it's only going to be a trilogy or whatnot. Uh, Ted Williams does seem to uh, come up with a particular story structure that he wants to tell with a beginning, a middle, and an end, even if it takes multiple books to tell it. Uh, he always seems to have an end goal in mind. So the books aren't going to be dragging on forever, I don't think. But a trilogy might work quite well. And I love the analogy um, of our title, "The Dirty Streets of Heaven," because heaven is supposed to be a clean, pure place, and the title is basically telling us it's not so pure and clean. And as you can see, the text on our wonderful title is kind of gray and muted, not so white and pure. So I like the symbolism involved in that, and some of the cool stuff that happens in here. It's quite good. Um, the other thing of mention that I should note is the way Mr. Williams has set up the what's the word I'm looking for here? The it's right on the tip of my tongue. It's on the tip of my tongue, and it's not coming. The structure of the supernatural inhabitants, the ecology. That's the word I'm looking for. The ecology of our angels and our demons, and how they have have human bodies, but are sort of immortal, maybe, but not really in certain circumstances. Um, there's definitely a very specific way he's laid it all out, and naturally, angels and demons, they're creatures of myth, so it makes sense that they can take a lot more damage, maybe, and can possibly come back in new bodies. This sort of thing, it feels natural. But even so, they can. Mr. Dollar, as he says, the fact that they are in a mortal body, that body still has to die in order for them to be taken out of it and uh, given a new one. And it still hurts. And it's still a traumatic event that most people don't want to suffer through. So it's kind of neat how he works all that in with this particular story. and there's definitely a mystery involved uh, for the solving of who is doing what. And Bobby Dollar is very much like the dogged uh, detective uh, doing the footwork to chase down leads and find the clues that he needs to solve his case. I liked it. I quite enjoyed it because I'm a sucker for detective stories. What can I say? So yeah, that's going to be it for this episode of You Should Be Reading. Thank you all so much for watching. As always, if you like what I'm doing, please give that like button a tap. Give that subscribe button a tap as well if you haven't already, so you can be kept apprised of when I do new videos. And throw a comment in the comment section. Have you read The Dirty Streets of Heaven? Do you know of any other noir detective stories, supernatural urban fantasy that you think I might be interested in? Throw a comment in the comment section. Let me know. I'd love to get a discussion going with some people. And until next time, remember, you should be reading The Dirty Streets of Heaven by Tad Williams. And I'll see you next time.